All right, welcome everybody. We have the Office 365 Pulse, the Microsoft 365 Pulse, whatever your flavor is. We have 26 or 23 items. I can't remember. 23, 26, a few items this week. Only in development and rolling out. Exciting times. We're probably going to see that between now and Ignite. They don't tend to launch things before major events. Which makes sense. The major event is going to be Ignite in a couple of weeks. They're actually having people in person in Seattle. So that's going to be exciting. So it's the first time in a long time.
And sign up online if you have not. Free registration online where you can watch everything remotely.
Yes, you can watch it remotely. So it's going to be a hybrid event and then some form of people in person, although I'm not sure how they're doing that. A lucky raffle.
And I'm pretty sure last year, if you signed up to do it online, they gave you a free certification you could take from Microsoft by have attendance to Ignite. So I typically don't have the bandwidth during the week to pay attention to what's going on, but by having an online registration, it gives you a login to the Ignite portal that puts all the VODs up after the fact. So 100% register online. It's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we will go into in development. And since I know Tom has already told me that there are many things he's excited about in development, I'm going to pass it to our friend Tom first.
Okay.
So you should have made him go. You should have made him go last.
I was going to say, now I have to find all the ones I said I was excited about.
Yeah, but don't take them all. Just take like a couple or one. Share the love, Tom. Share the love.
Well, I want to take whiteboard as a group.
Go ahead. Okay, take it as a group.
Yay. Okay, there's like 5 different whiteboard things. And it's kind of ironic. The reason I really noticed this week is that we were doing a demo of whiteboard for an internal group here at the company. And it was a group that normally uses Mural. And when the person who was demoing this was talking, she said, yeah, there's some things we don't have, such as being able to follow the person so you can see where they are on the whiteboard and timers and stuff like that. It's like, guess what? They're here now. So in development, these all look like they're going to be coming out between September and December. So not immediate, but we're getting there. Really nice whiteboard URL support. URLs inserted into a whiteboard will become clickable links. Yay. Rather than you having to copy and then try to paste it into a browser and stuff like that. Follow. Users will have the ability to invite users on a whiteboard during a Teams meeting to follow their viewpoints. So this is nice, especially if you have a large whiteboard and you're scrolling around the whiteboard and people lose track of where you're at. Well, when you say follow, it just kind of drags you along with them for what you're seeing. And that works out really well. And that's an option in Mural that they really like that they'll now have in whiteboard. Timer. Adding a timer to whiteboard to help enable users to run timed activities, such as a timed brainstorm. Or, hey, we're going on break for 5 minutes. Please be back. Here's your countdown. So that's coming. That's awesome. Commenting, the ability to add comments on a whiteboard to aid in discussion with board participants. This will include a comments pane to see all comments in a given whiteboard. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to the commenting feature in many of the other things like we have in Word and stuff like that, the modern comments that they talk about. So looking forward to that one. And then embedded online video. This is kind of cool. Users can insert a video URL and have the video appear directly on the canvas. So again, you can start to use whiteboard more as your presentation tool to show various things rather than just have to say, okay, now we're going to pull over this and share it. You can actually have it all on the whiteboard. So again, these are coming out anywhere between September for the whiteboard URL support and then November and December for the other two. September for the embedded online video. And what's even better, they are coming out to everybody, GCC, DoD, GCC High, and worldwide.
Whiteboard is a great app. I'm glad to see them reinvesting and coming out with new features in it. Especially, you've got to feel moderately good about this if you committed and bought one of the Surface hubs and stuff like that. I have clients out there that I spent $50,000 on this thing so we could do meetings more efficiently. So it's nice to see them developing that. And special shout out, Jen knows this because we had a poor client that did this. It's nice seeing them develop on the GCC High side as well too, because for a while they would advertise on their documents that GCC High supported whiteboard, and when you look at it, there'd be an asterisk, and the asterisk was, well, you can't actually log in with your account on whiteboard for GCC High, but it's on the tablet. Don't worry about it. Or it's on the device. So nice to see them actually doing some development there.
Yeah, and it's good. I love, because the very first thing you said, Tom, was like they are using this app because of the lack of features, and now all of these features are coming out. So I think we're seeing feature parity with competitors, which is going to give us a cost reduction over the next year. So I think we're going to start to see, I think this is going to be the year of, it's not even necessarily shadow IT, because it's required IT. It's going to be the year of those little apps that I think we're going to be able to get rid of, finally clean up some of those things that we're able to say, okay, we can get rid of this, we can get rid of that, because we've got these extra features that people legitimately needed for business purposes. So I'm excited to see where some of that can go.
Yeah, when whiteboard first came out, like, oh, we've got whiteboard, and I'm like, you've got a thing called whiteboard, because it just was really clunky, really cumbersome, just didn't work for me. And I had a really hard time telling people, hey, wow, look at this, you have a whiteboard, because they were used to Mural, and Mural was very full featured. It's a basically targeted application. Now I see that they are doing Microsoft gets it right on version 3, and that they're actually bringing stuff together.
That's their MO, right? They roll out with an MVP, they then make some changes, then they get to so if you're already like established in using something, you're not always candidate for the first release. And so that's kind of what they've been saying all along. Now we're kind of actually seeing it in execution. So it's kind of nice to see. So it's nice to see the execution of what they've been saying. So now it will be nice to see some dollars put with that and saying, hey, look, we actually saved some money and we made some changes. So that'll be good stuff to see. So how about you, Tamara? What are you liking in development?
I have totally come around to Microsoft Viva.
Viva! Okay.
I like it. I like getting the emails in the morning that remind me of things that I said I would do in emails. I understand that it's learning when it does, oh, you have a meeting here. Is this document related? And so we're training it. So it'll get better in the future. And I like that. So what they have on the roadmap is Microsoft Viva briefing email favorite and snooze preferences. So you can personalize that daily briefing email through favorite and snooze. Now, favorited content will be prioritized and snoozed contents will be deprioritized in your future briefing emails. So if you don't want to train it, oh, here it's got this meeting date, does this piece of content relate to that? You can say snooze on that and they'll stop presenting it. Now that's rolling out in October of 2022, but just to the worldwide tenant, not to GCC, GCC High, DoD, all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm a little excited about that. So you can have some more control over training your Viva.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Jen, I'm about to say you want to go because I have a couple nerdy ones that no one's going to do. So
yeah, I've got 2 for Teams. One is live translated captions in meetings. So users will be able to choose the live captions in the language they prefer, and then it will do the live translations, and that's using the cognitive services speech translation capabilities. So that's coming in September to DoD, GCC High, and the worldwide tenant. So that's in development now. And then the other one for Teams, I promise you, someone got assigned a task that said, find out why people are left in meetings. And then they studied and they found out Jennifer Mason goes to meetings and she never leaves meetings. Could you find out why? And one of the reasons was she goes to meetings in multiple devices. And then there's, a reason she leaves on one device, but it doesn't leave across all of her other devices. And then she goes and looks at her iPad and, she started the meeting on her iPad, but then she walked to her desk and, switched and it didn't leave. And so there she is abandoning another poor meeting. So now leave meetings on all devices. So it is going to allow us to leave the meetings on all devices. I think they're just making it easier for us to not abandon meetings and leave recordings all over the place. I mean, they've already put some features in last week where they were saying it was going to end those abandoned meetings already, but now it's going to make it even easier for us to naturally leave them. If we're in the meeting in multiple places, it's going to get that trigger to say, hey, you're in this multiple places. If you're leaving once, you might want to leave on every device. So I'm glad they're kind of closing that loop that they probably didn't even realize would happen, and then they probably started to see trends of a lot of abandoned meetings. So I'm excited to see that coming. So those were the two that I saw in Microsoft Teams. And then finally, music on hold for call transfer. So if you transfer a call, you're going to get hold music. So those were the Teams ones that are in development there. So I guess the mic we'll hand it over to you, Adam, for some nerdy ones, and then we can loop back for any other non-nerdy ones that we missed.
Yeah, for sure. There is one that I'll call out on Teams just because it's there as well too. We were just talking about it. This is not a feature a ton of people are going to use, but they announced that you'll now be able to put on music on hold for call transfers. So this is more relevant for the companies that are actually using Teams as like their call service, right? Where, hey, you can call into our help desk and we have a call queue that goes to multiple people or whatever. Having the ability to actually have hold music, whatever you're going to transfer someone. I just thought that was kind of cool and a neat little feature. That's September of this year for DoD, Worldwide, GCCI, GCC, basically everyone. But my two nerdy ones that I wanted to talk about, both of these are pretty nerdy, but I actually think are actually super cool. So the first one is going to be data loss prevention contextual evidence match for endpoint DLP. So I'm not going to get too deep into the huge nerdiness here, but basically when you go through to try to match a DLP policy, you're looking for a pattern algorithm that you're going through and identifying, but it has to find supporting evidence too. If you know what you're doing in DLP, you can actually go into the sensitive information types and look at for high confidence, medium confidence, or low confidence, what supporting evidence do you need? So the explanation of this is, okay, it's looking for a 16-digit number for a credit card, but that's not enough on medium or high confidence to trigger. It's also going to look for words like CC or credit card or Visa or Discover or MasterCard or so on and so forth. It will look for other things to go through and do it. Well, now what's going to happen is they're rolling out a feature that would be when those matches happen and it's using the supporting evidence to go through and come to the conclusion, you as a customer will be able to go in and look at the DLP match itself and log in and see the contextual evidence. It actually typically goes through and looks at 300 characters before and 300 characters after. So I think it's just neat as a nerd. I like the idea that I'll be able to go through and see, well, why did this trigger? And this will actually make troubleshooting false positives, false negatives, stuff like that quite a bit easier for you to go through and do, which is neat. The other one is actually a new thing they're doing that conceptually I love. I think that this kind of shows the direction they're trying to move forward as a whole. But it's information protection, new built-in trainable classifiers with auto labeling support. So Microsoft has gone through and they have built out several ready-to-use trainable classifiers to discover and auto-classify sensitive content across categories such as product development files, personal financial information, and standard operating procedures. These classifiers are pre-trained using diverse and large numbers of real-world samples to provide broad coverage of multiple common business functions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It talks about doing finance, human resources stuff. What this actually means, and again, this is where I'm talking about, I think this is kind of future scope of the product. They've gone in and they've tried to put together auto classifiers that will look at unique data for each of the individual clients. We'll go through and look at your tenants and your company's unique data and try to go through and say, okay, based off of what I know, these documents have the same type of language and contextual clues that I've been trained to identify sensitive information related to finance or sensitive information related to HR or so on and so forth. And you can actually use these trainable classifiers to try to go through and get a better handle on what your internal company information that you have stored up is. You can even extrapolate this out. You can not only do this on OneDrive and SharePoint where you're doing file storage solutions, what you're doing inside of the cloud. If you extend this out to Defender for cloud apps or what became of that and are using the file plan options in there, you can even extend trainable classifiers out to on-premise data repositories and stuff like that as well too. So this is really cool. What this is basically doing is Microsoft using machine learning and algorithmic training to go through and help you to classify and essentially put tags and metadata associated with internal company files that maybe don't have a typical algorithm like look for credit cards or look for HIPAA data, but instead looks for stuff that will be important to your internal company based off of real world examples. So again, this is like, to me, the future of where this technology is going. This is them leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence to bring a proactive solution that doesn't require manual intervention on their users' part, that can help them to protect and safeguard their internal company information and secrets. Super, super cool.
Very cool. Anyone else have anything in development?
I'm good.
I had one thing.
Okay, awesome.
Microsoft OneDrive granular controls for file requests or request file links and anyone links. So these policy changes is going to make it possible for customers to enable the request files scenario on OneDrive without also enabling file and folder anyone links. So you'll have tighter control over who is accessing your information.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
great.
do like that.
Yeah, it means you can get people to drop off files without giving them access when someone says share with anyone who has access to the network,
Right.
which is really
Yeah.
cool. Really cool. Well, cool. Tamara, do you want to take us to rolling out?
Sure. I have a couple things that make me really excited. Outlook. Friendlier link names will now work for files added to messages through the attach icon. So what that means is links to files attached to a message from a cloud location connected to Outlook on the web will be displayed as a link in the body of the message instead of cloud attachments. The link will have the name of the file. Now, I think this is great. One thing to be aware, though, a lot of organizations will turn off the hyperlinks in an email because they're worried about phishing scams. So if you have that going on, I wonder how that's going to interact with having the name of the document and the URL behind it.
You can tell that Tamara spends a lot of time working with the DoD and GCCH when she says a lot of organizations turn off the hyperlinks. A lot of the organizations she works with turns off the hyperlinks.
All right, the one organization that I work with.
Yeah,
You're
but I
right.
noticed this one is only going worldwide, so it's
Right.
not going to affect your particular DoD clients at this stage of the game yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, there's nothing friendly about that anyway yet. So with the hyperlinks not being there, but they're kind of used to that mode and that extra layer of safety there. Awesome. How about you? Well, I'll give one for DoD that is a friendly, happy one. Microsoft Teams Together Mode for GCCH and DoD. So Together Mode, where a meeting organizer and presenter can start that for everyone. Tamara, can I be in the first meeting where that rolls out and you put everyone in Together Mode and I can just watch what the audience does? So yep.
Sure, but nobody uses webcams.
Oh, that's true. That's right. That's right. But yeah, so the meeting and the organizer can put everyone in Together Mode. So that's exciting there. I like when the meeting and the organizers can do that there. So very cool. Very cool. How about you, Tom?
So fortunately, Tamara didn't take the other one I was focusing on, which is Microsoft Teams Intelligent Translation in Teams Mobile. So in Teams iOS, apparently not for Android at this point, it will now prompt you to translate messages that are not in your set language. So if you're in a Teams chat and somebody decides to throw in a French phrase or something, it'll go, doesn't look like English, translate, ? And you can click on that. It will actually give you the English translation. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
And I guess I've got one or two more before we switch over to Adam. Word. So this is for Windows, for Word and for Mac, but the easily switch between editing, reviewing, and viewing a document in Word. Just so you can switch when you're doing that. So you don't make accidental changes. It's just making that experience better. I've really liked all the changes they've been making with that. And so I don't think it's anything that's drastic or anything that you really even notice, except for it's just easier to work with the document. So if you're in a review mode, it's easy to review, add your comments and stuff like that without drastically changing the document. So they've made some UI changes and some flow changes that just make it easy. Not flow in the term of power flow, but flow in the term of how you work with the document, to make it easy to review, edit, all of those different things there. And so I think those are all really good changes. Speaking as someone who is reviewing documents quite a bit, I'm happy with those changes. So anything else before we switch to Adam to take us and finish us with the techie ones?
Play us off, Adam.
I love how it's just always assumed I'm doing the nerdy ones. I'm just like, yeah, that'll be fine. There are a couple nerdy ones that are probably worth noting. Very briefly, in last week's call, or maybe the week before, we had talked about a new feature of basically allowing users to co-author on encrypted documents for mobile. And I was excited about that because right now, if you try to co-author on an encrypted document, it just straight up doesn't work, which is kind of, it's a hard conversation to have with a customer when you say, oh yeah, you know, for security reasons, you should definitely be, you know, putting encryption on your document. And they're like, cool, and make, oh yeah, you know, all that great benefit you get from the cloud, that goes away. So it'd be nice to see that coming through and developing. But two that I wanted to kind of call out that I thought were interesting, but maybe not necessarily too impactful. As of August of this year, so theoretically by the end of this month, the data lifecycle management stuff that was in the Classic Exchange Admin Center is basically migrating to the compliance portal. This has already happened in the sense that it's already available there. How I read this is it's basically going away from the old Classic Exchange Admin Center. So stuff like retention policies, retention tags, journaling rules, stuff like that. Right now in typical Microsoft fashion, there's like 3 different ways you can go through and get to that information. They're going to be deprecating the Classic Exchange Admin Center where that information can be found. So you'll be needing to go through and view that through the compliance portal. I've been using the compliance portal for the last year or so to get to that anyways. So it's not going to change my day-to-day, but if you were, you know, a curmudgeon stuck in your old ways, you might still be using the and you'd really have to be a curmudgeon because you not only would have to be using Exchange, but you'd have to be using the Classic Exchange Admin Center, not even the new one, to be doing this. But if you were a curmudgeon stuck in your ways, that may be changing and going away. So something for you to just be aware of. And then the other one I thought was just kind of cool. This is set for October of this year for DoD, GCC High, Worldwide Standard, GCC. So again, basically everyone. And it's the idea of insider risk management, Microsoft Defender for endpoint alerts. So what this is basically going to do is if you're using Microsoft Defender for endpoint, which is basically you are putting antivirus software and stuff on Windows machines, or theoretically there's some other stuff you can do too, but you're basically putting antivirus software on to manage your users' workstations. You're now going to be able to import details and information related to that into the insider risk management section, and it's going to have updates for you of doing stuff like potential malicious or inadvertent insider risk. A user might have installed malicious or unimproved software, so you can be aware of that. There might be IP theft going on. There might be stuff like that happening. This is basically going to take in the information that is gathered by having Defender for Endpoint, which again is primarily an antivirus, on the machine and pulling that into your already existing Microsoft Purview insider risk stuff. We talked about insider risk management a lot over the last year because Microsoft's done a ton of updates to it. If you remember, the broad umbrella of insider risk management is basically if your employees are doing something that could hurt your company, they're trying to go through and steal information because they're getting ready to leave, they're sexually harassing their coworkers, they're bullying their coworkers, stuff like that. This is basically just going to be taking the information that's gathered by an additional tool set of Microsoft Defender and pulling that information into this existing framework of insider risk management, which again is just cool. It's just basically giving you more coverage over what you're doing. And it's Microsoft, eating their own cat food and making the value increase by you choosing to use additional Microsoft products. So nice to see.
Oh. Awesome. Well, cool, guys. That's all we have this week. So we will be back next week with another round of the updates that they're pushing before night. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.